Captain Jake Morrison stood at the large window of the space station, watching the stars. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't notice. Today was the most important day in human history. The Zephyrian Empire was coming to sign a peace treaty. For 3 years, humans and Zephyrians had been talking. Sometimes the talks went well. Sometimes they almost started a war. Today, everything would be decided. Jake heard small footsteps behind him. He turned and smiled as 8-year-old Kira ran toward him. Her skin was pale like a human's, but her eyes were the bright purple of the Zephyrians. She was beautiful and strange, like a flower that shouldn't exist but somehow did. "Daddy Jake," Kira called out, jumping into his arms. "Are the important aliens coming today?" Jake caught her and spun her around. "Yes, little one. The Queen herself is coming. You need to be very good today, okay?" Kira nodded seriously. She always tried to be good for Jake. He had taken care of her for 2 years now, ever since her mother left her on the station. Nobody else wanted a half-human, half-alien child, but Jake did. He loved her like she was his own daughter. Dr. Amy Collins walked up to them. She looked worried. "Jake, we need to talk. The Queen's ship just arrived. She's coming early." Jake put Kira down gently. "Go play in your room for a while, sweetie. The grown-ups need to talk." "But I want to see the alien Queen," Kira said. "Later, I promise," Jake said. "Now go." Kira ran off, her purple eyes bright with excitement. Jake watched her go, then turned to Amy. "What's wrong?" he asked. Amy bit her lip. "The Queen didn't tell us she was coming. She just showed up with a huge warship. Commander Stone is very nervous. He thinks she might be planning something bad." Jake thought about this. Queen Veltara was known to be very proud and very angry. She ruled 17 star systems with an iron fist. Some people said she had never smiled in her 300 years of life. "Did she say why she came early?" Jake asked. "No, she just demanded to see the treaty room. She's on her way here now with her guards." Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach. If the Queen was angry, the peace talks could fail. If the peace talks failed, there might be war. Millions of people could die. "Let's go meet her," Jake said. "Maybe we can fix whatever's wrong." They walked through the station's halls toward the main meeting room. Other diplomats and soldiers were running around, all looking scared. Everyone knew how important today was. The meeting room was huge, with a long table in the middle. Flags from Earth and the Zephyrian Empire hung on the walls. The peace treaty sat on the table, waiting to be signed. Commander Rick Stone was there with his security team. He was a big man with kind eyes, but today he looked very serious. "Jake, thank God you're here," Rick said. "The Queen's ship is massive. It has enough weapons to destroy this whole station." "I don't like this." Before Jake could answer, the doors opened. Queen Veltara walked in and Jake's breath stopped. She was tall, almost 7 feet, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow. Her hair was white as snow and fell to her feet. Her eyes were deep purple like Kira's, but cold as ice. She wore a long black dress covered in silver patterns that moved like they were alive. Behind her came 6 guards. They were all tall and strong, with weapons that hummed with energy. Their faces showed no feeling at all. The Queen looked around the room slowly. When her eyes met Jake's, he felt like she was looking into his soul. He had never felt so small. "I am Queen Veltara Zephthis," she said. Her voice was like music, but dangerous music. "Ruler of the Zephyrian Empire, I have come to sign this treaty." Jake stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, I am Captain Jake Morrison. We are honored by your presence." The Queen said nothing. She walked to the treaty and looked at it. For long minutes, nobody spoke. Jake could hear his heart beating. "This treaty speaks of peace," the Queen said finally. "It speaks of trade and friendship between our peoples. But I wonder if humans can be trusted." Jake felt sweat on his forehead. "Your Majesty, we want peace. We have worked hard for this day." The Queen turned to face him. "Have you? Then why do I hear stories of humans stealing Zephyrian children?" Jake's blood turned to ice. "Your Majesty, I don't understand. We would never—" He was interrupted by the sound of running feet. Little Kira burst into the room, her face bright with excitement. She had gotten away from her babysitter. "Daddy," she cried, running straight to Jake. "Is this the Queen? She's so pretty." Kira threw her arms around Jake's legs and looked up at the Queen with wonder. The room went completely silent. Queen Veltara stared at Kira. Her face went from pale blue to dark purple. Her hands began to shake. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "What did she call you?" the Queen whispered. Her voice was like the sound of breaking glass. Jake looked down at Kira, then back at the Queen. His mouth was dry. "Your Majesty, I can explain." "She called you father," the Queen said, her voice getting louder. "This child, this half-blood child called you father." The Queen's guards stepped forward, their weapons starting to glow. Commander Stone's men reached for their guns. The air crackled with tension. Kira looked around, confused. She could feel that something was wrong, but she didn't understand what. "Daddy?" she said quietly. "Why is everyone angry?" Queen Veltara's eyes blazed with fury. She raised her hand, and the silver patterns on her dress began to move faster. "Explain," she roared. "Explain why my granddaughter calls you father." The words hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. Granddaughter. Kira was the Queen's granddaughter. Everyone in the room stopped breathing. The peace treaty sat forgotten on the table. 3 years of careful diplomacy crumbled in an instant. Jake held Kira closer, protecting her from the Queen's rage. But he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The silence in the room was terrible. Queen Veltara stood like a statue, her purple eyes burning with anger. Her guards had their weapons ready. Commander Stone's soldiers were ready to fight. Everyone waited for someone to move first. Little Kira looked up at Jake with scared eyes. She didn't understand why everyone was so angry. She just wanted to see the pretty alien queen. "Your Majesty," Jake said carefully. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. "Please let me explain. Kira is safe. She is loved." "She is—" "Silence!" the Queen shouted. The windows shook. The lights flickered. "You will not speak unless I tell you to speak." Jake closed his mouth. He held Kira tighter. She was trembling now. Dr. Amy Collins stepped forward slowly. Her hands were up to show she meant no harm. "Your Majesty, perhaps we could sit down and talk about this calmly." The Queen turned her burning gaze to Amy. "Who are you to speak to me, human?" "I am Dr. Amy Collins. I study different species and their cultures. I have been learning about your people for 3 years." The Queen looked at Amy for a long moment. Then she waved her hand. Her guards lowered their weapons slightly. Commander Stone's men did the same. "Very well," the Queen said. "We will sit. But I want answers. Real answers. And if I do not like what I hear, this treaty dies. And perhaps this station dies with it." Everyone sat down at the big table. Jake kept Kira on his lap. She was still confused and scared. The Queen sat across from them, her cold eyes never leaving Kira's face. "Begin," the Queen commanded. Jake took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, 2 years ago, a woman came to this station. Her name was Lisa Grant. She was a scientist studying space rocks." "Continue," the Queen said. "Lisa was here for 6 months. During that time, she met one of your diplomats. His name was Velthor. They fell in love." The Queen's face went even more pale. "Velthor. My son," Jake nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. They had a relationship. When Lisa found out she was pregnant, Velthor wanted to marry her. But Lisa was scared. She didn't know how humans and Zephyrians would react to their child." Amy spoke up. "Your Majesty, humans sometimes have trouble accepting people who are different. We are working to change this, but it takes time." The Queen said nothing. She was thinking about her son. Velthor had died in a ship accident 1 year ago. She had never known about Kira. Jake continued. "When Kira was born, Lisa saw that she looked different. She had human skin but Zephyrian eyes. Some humans on the station were cruel to Lisa. They called Kira names. They said she was a monster." Kira looked up at Jake. "I'm not a monster, am I, Daddy?" Jake hugged her. "No, sweetie. You're perfect just the way you are." The Queen watched this. Something in her cold eyes flickered. "Lisa couldn't handle it," Jake said. "One night, 2 years ago, she left Kira in the station's daycare center. She left a note saying she couldn't take care of a half-alien child. Then she took the next ship back to Earth." "And you took her?" the Queen said. It was not a question. "Yes," Jake said. "The station chief didn't know what to do with her. Most humans were afraid of her. Some wanted to send her away. But I couldn't let that happen." Amy leaned forward. "Your Majesty, in human culture, family is not just about blood. We believe that family is about love and care. Jake has been Kira's father in every way that matters." The Queen's eyes flashed. "Blood is everything. Lineage is sacred. You humans understand nothing." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "I understand that she needed someone to love her. I understand that she cried herself to sleep every night for months. I understand that she was scared and alone and everyone else turned their backs on her." The Queen stood up quickly. Her guards reached for their weapons again. "You dare raise your voice to me?" she hissed. Jake stood up too, still holding Kira. "Yes, I do. Because I'm her father. I've been there for every nightmare, every skinned knee, every birthday. I've taught her to read and to laugh and to be brave. Blood didn't do that. Love did that." The room was silent again. Kira looked back and forth between Jake and the Queen. She was starting to understand that the Queen was family too. "Are you my grandma?" Kira asked the Queen in her small voice. The Queen looked at Kira for a long time. She saw Velthor's eyes in the little girl's face. She saw his gentle nature in the way Kira wasn't afraid to speak. "Yes," the Queen said quietly. "I am your grandmother," Kira smiled. "I always wanted a grandma. Daddy Jake told me stories about grandmas. He said they give hugs and make cookies." The Queen blinked. "Cookies?" Amy smiled a little. "It's a human food that children love. Grandmothers often make them for their grandchildren." The Queen sat down slowly. She was thinking about many things. She was thinking about her son, who had died before she could meet his child. She was thinking about how lonely Kira must have been. She was thinking about how this human man had saved her granddaughter when her own people didn't even know she existed. "Tell me about her life here," the Queen said to Jake. Her voice was softer now. Jake sat down too. "She's a good student. She loves to learn about space and stars. She can read in 3 languages now. She's kind to everyone, even when they're not kind to her." "She has friends?" the Queen asked. "A few. Some of the other children on the station. Dr. Collins reads her stories about your people. Commander Stone teaches her to play chess." The Queen looked around the table. These humans had made a family for her granddaughter. They had given her what she needed when no one else would. "Why didn't you tell us about her?" the Queen asked. Jake and Amy looked at each other. Amy answered, "Your Majesty, we were afraid. We didn't know how your people would react. We didn't want to cause problems between our species. And we didn't know she was your granddaughter." Jake added, "Velthor never told Lisa his full name. We only knew his first name." The Queen understood now. Velthor had kept his royal blood secret to protect Lisa from politics. He had just wanted to love and be loved. Kira climbed down from Jake's lap and walked slowly toward the Queen. Everyone watched her, ready to grab her if the Queen became angry again. "Grandma," Kira said, "are you sad?" The Queen looked down at this brave little girl. "Yes, child, I am sad. I am sad because I missed 2 years of your life. I am sad because my son died without telling me about you." Kira reached out and touched the Queen's hand. "Daddy Jake says that being sad is okay. He says we can be sad about missing people, but we should also be happy about the people we still have." The Queen felt something she hadn't felt in many years. Her heart was warming. This little girl, half human though she was, had the wisdom of someone much older. "Your daddy Jake is very smart," the Queen said. Kira smiled. "He's the best daddy in the whole galaxy. But I always wanted more family too. Can you be my grandma for real?" The Queen looked at Jake, then at Amy, then at all the humans who had cared for her granddaughter. She thought about the treaty on the table. She thought about the future of both their species. "Child," she said to Kira, "I want very much to be your grandmother, but it is complicated." "Why?" Kira asked. The Queen didn't know how to explain politics and prejudice to an 8-year-old. How could she say that many of her people would be angry about a half-human royal child? How could she explain that some humans would fear her too? Commander Stone spoke for the first time. "Your Majesty, Kira doesn't see complications. She just sees family. Maybe we adults think too much." The Queen looked at this human soldier. He was right. Children saw truth more clearly than adults sometimes, but the Queen was still a ruler. She had responsibilities, and she was still angry that her granddaughter had been hidden from her, even if she understood why. The peace treaty sat on the table, forgotten. But Jake knew that everything depended on what happened next. The Queen had to choose between her anger and her love, and Kira, innocent and hopeful, waited for her grandmother's answer. Queen Veltara sat in silence for a long time. Her purple eyes moved from Kira to Jake and back again. Everyone in the room waited. The air felt heavy like before a storm. Finally, the Queen spoke. "I need time to think. This meeting is over for now." She stood up. Her guards immediately stood with her. "I will return tomorrow with my decision. Until then, the child stays here." Jake felt relief and worry at the same time. At least the Queen wasn't trying to take Kira away right now. Your Majesty, Amy said quickly, would you like to learn more about how Kira has been raised? We could show you her room, her school, her life here. The Queen stopped at the door. Tomorrow, she said coldly. Then she left with her guards. After they were gone, Commander Stone whistled softly. Well, that could have gone worse. At least no one started shooting. Jake sat down heavily. Kira climbed back onto his lap. Daddy, is Grandma mad at me? No, sweetheart, Jake said. She's not mad at you. She's confused and surprised. Sometimes grown-ups need time to understand new things. Amy sat down next to them. Jake, we need to prepare for tomorrow. The Queen is going to want answers to hard questions. What kind of questions? Jake asked. About Zephyrian law, about bloodlines, about what rights she has to Kira. Amy looked worried. I've been studying their culture. Family is very important to them, but in different ways than humans. Rick Stone locked the door and came back to the table. I've been thinking. We need to know more about what the Queen might do. Jake, tell me everything you know about Kira's father. Jake thought back. Velthor was quiet and kind. He loved to read. He told Lisa that he missed his home world, but he never talked about being royal. He seemed lonely. Lonely how? Amy asked. Like he had a big family but couldn't be close to them. Lisa said he always seemed sad when he talked about his people. Amy nodded. That makes sense. In Zephyrian culture, royal children are raised apart from their parents. They're taught duty before love. The Queen probably barely knew her own son. Kira looked up at Jake with wide eyes. That's sad. I'm glad you hug me every day. Jake hugged her tighter. Me too, little one. Over the next few hours, they prepared for the Queen's return. Amy studied every piece of information she could find about Zephyrian family law. Rick checked with his security team and made sure the station was safe. Jake spent time with Kira, trying to keep her happy while he worried about the future. That night, Jake tucked Kira into her bed. Her room was small but cozy, with pictures she had drawn on the walls and toys scattered around. Daddy, Kira said as Jake read her a bedtime story. Will Grandma take me away? Jake's heart hurt. I don't know, sweetie. But I promise you that no matter what happens, I will always love you, and I will always fight to keep you safe. Even if she's a queen? Even if she's a queen. Kira smiled and closed her eyes. I love you, Daddy Jake. I love you too, Kira. Sweet dreams. But Jake didn't sleep that night. He stood at his window, looking at the stars and thinking about what might happen tomorrow. The next morning, Queen Veltara returned. This time she came with different people. Instead of guards, she brought Zephyrian scientists and what looked like doctors. I have decided, the Queen announced. Before I make any choices about the child, she must be examined by my people. We need to understand what the humans have done to her mind. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. There's nothing wrong with her mind. That remains to be seen, the Queen said coldly. My experts will determine if she has been damaged by human influence. Dr. Amy Collins stepped forward. Your Majesty, what exactly do you mean by damaged? One of the Zephyrian scientists answered. He was tall and thin with cold silver eyes. We must test whether the child still has proper Zephyrian instincts, whether she understands hierarchy and respect, whether her thinking has been contaminated by human emotions. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. Contaminated? She's 8 years old. She's supposed to have emotions. The Queen raised her hand for silence. In our culture, children learn control before they learn feeling. Order before chaos. This child has been raised backwards. Amy looked confused. Your Majesty, could you explain what you mean? The silver-eyed scientist spoke again. Zephyrian children are taught to respect bloodlines first, family rank second, personal feelings last. This child runs to a human before acknowledging her queen. This shows dangerous thinking. Kira, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. But Daddy Jake loves me. Love isn't dangerous. The Queen looked down at her granddaughter. Child love without order leads to chaos. You must learn your place in the world. My place is with Daddy Jake, Kira said simply. The Zephyrian scientists looked at each other with worry. This was exactly what they had feared. The child had been taught to value personal bonds over proper hierarchy. The testing will begin now, the Queen decided. For the next several hours, the Zephyrian experts asked Kira many questions. They showed her pictures and asked her to choose between different options. They tested how she reacted to authority figures. Jake was allowed to watch, but he couldn't help. It was torture. He could see that Kira was getting tired and confused. She kept looking at him for reassurance. "Who is most important in your life?" one scientist asked. "Daddy Jake," Kira answered without hesitation. "More important than a queen?" Kira thought about this. "Queens are important for kingdoms. Daddies are important for little girls." The scientists wrote notes. They whispered to each other in their own language. "If you had to choose between your human father and your Zephyrian family, which would you choose?" another scientist asked. Kira started to cry. "I don't want to choose. I want both. Why can't I have both?" Jake started to stand up, but Queen Velterra held up her hand to stop him. "The child is clearly confused," the silver-eyed scientist said to the queen. "She has been taught human values that conflict with proper Zephyrian thinking. She will need extensive re-education." "Re-education?" Amy asked. "What does that mean?" "She must be taken from the human influences and taught proper Zephyrian ways. It will take many years to undo the damage." Jake couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Damage? You think teaching her to love is damage? You think showing her kindness is wrong?" The queen turned to face him. "I think teaching her to ignore hierarchy is dangerous. I think letting her believe that feelings matter more than duty is wrong. Feelings do matter more than duty." Jake shouted. "Love matters more than rules. She's a child, not a robot." The room erupted. The Zephyrian scientists began talking angrily in their language. Commander Stone's men moved closer, ready for trouble. Amy tried to calm everyone down. In the middle of all the noise, Kira stood up on her chair. "Stop!" she yelled as loud as she could. Everyone went quiet. This little girl had a voice that could command attention. "You're all being mean," Kira said, tears running down her face. "Daddy Jake isn't bad. Grandma isn't bad. I don't understand why everyone is fighting." She looked at the queen. "Grandma, I want to know about your people. I want to learn Zephyrian things, but I don't want to forget human things either." Then she looked at Jake. "Daddy, I want to stay with you, but I want to know about my other family too." She looked around the room at all the adults. "Why can't I have both? Why do I have to choose? I'm half human and half Zephyrian. That means I should get to keep both parts, doesn't it?" The room was completely silent. This 8-year-old child had just said something that none of the adults had thought of. She wasn't asking to choose between two families. She was asking why she couldn't have both. Queen Velterra stared at her granddaughter. The child's words hit her like lightning. In all her years of ruling, in all her complex political decisions, she had never considered this simple solution. The silver-eyed scientist started to speak. "Your Majesty, the child's thinking is still contaminated. She doesn't understand." "No," the queen said quietly. "I think she understands better than any of us." She knelt down to be at Kira's eye level. "Child, tell me more about this idea. How would you have both families?" Kira wiped her tears and thought carefully. "Well, I could live with Daddy Jake because he takes good care of me. But I could visit you and learn about being Zephyrian, and maybe you could visit me too and see how humans live." The queen looked into Kira's purple eyes just like her son's. She saw wisdom there that surprised her. She also saw something else. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a third choice that no one had thought of before. Queen Velterra stayed kneeling in front of Kira for a long time. She studied her granddaughter's face, seeing her son Velthor in the child's gentle eyes and brave spirit. "You want both families," the queen said slowly. But my people will not understand this. They will say you must choose one path or the other." "Then your people are wrong," Jake said firmly. He knelt down next to Kira. "She doesn't have to be just Zephyrian or just human. She can be both." The silver-eyed scientist stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this is impossible. The child cannot serve two masters. She cannot follow two sets of laws. She will be torn apart." Amy Collins had been thinking while everyone else argued. Now she spoke up. "Your Majesty, may I ask you something personal?" The queen stood and looked at Amy with cold eyes. "You may ask. I may not answer." "When you were young, did you ever want something your people said you couldn't have?" The queen's face became even more cold. "What I wanted was not important. I had duties, but what did you want?" Amy pressed gently. For a moment, the queen's mask slipped. Pain flashed in her purple eyes. "I wanted to know my children. I wanted to hold them and sing to them and watch them grow. But royal children must be raised by teachers, not parents. It is our way," Amy nodded. "And how did that feel?" "It felt..." The queen stopped. She looked around the room, then back at Amy. It felt empty. Jake understood now. You lost your son twice. Once when he was taken to be raised by others, and again when he died. You never really got to be his mother. The Queen's hands trembled slightly. A queen does not speak of such things. A grandmother might, Amy said softly. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Commander Stone grabbed his radio. What's happening? A voice crackled through. Sir, we have Zephyrian warships approaching. Lots of them. They're demanding the Queen return immediately. The Queen's face went pale. My council. They followed me. More voices came through the radio. Human ships approaching from the other direction. They're also demanding to speak with Captain Morrison. Jake felt his heart sink. Both sides were bringing their militaries. The situation was spinning out of control. Queen Veltara spoke quickly to her scientists in Zephyrian language. They argued back and forth. Jake could see fear in their eyes. What are they saying? He asked Amy. I think they're telling her that her people are angry, that she's been gone too long and they're worried about a trap. The Queen turned to Commander Stone. How many ships does your side have coming? Unknown, Your Majesty. But if they're coming here, it means Earth thinks you might be taking Captain Morrison prisoner. Kira looked around at all the worried adults. Why is everyone scared of ships? Ships bring people to visit. Her innocent question made everyone pause. In the middle of their fear about war, she was still thinking about family visits. The Queen knelt down to Kira again. Child, those ships are full of people who don't understand what we're trying to do here. They think we are enemies. Are we enemies? Kira asked. I don't know, the Queen said honestly. Jake had an idea. It was crazy, but maybe crazy was what they needed. Your Majesty, what if we showed both sides something they've never seen before? What do you mean? What if we showed them that Zephyrians and humans can be family? Real family? The Queen looked confused. How? Jake picked up Kira and held her close. We let them see her. We let them see that she exists, that she's healthy and happy, that she loves both sides of her heritage. Amy's eyes went wide. Jake, that's incredibly dangerous. If either side rejects her, then we're no worse off than we are now, Jake said. But if they accept her, if they see what's possible when our peoples come together. Commander Stone was listening to his radio. We're running out of time. Both fleets are demanding answers. They want to know what's happening here. The Queen stood up slowly. She was thinking hard. In my culture, we have a tradition. When there is a great dispute, sometimes a child is allowed to speak to the council. Their innocence can sometimes show truth that adults cannot see. Would your people listen to Kira? Amy asked. They would have to. She is royal blood, but the Queen looked worried. If they reject her, if they say she is not truly Zephyrian, it could destroy her. Jake felt Kira's small hand on his cheek. She was looking at him with those beautiful purple eyes. Daddy, she said quietly. I want to try. I want to tell them that families can be different and still be good. Sweetheart, it might be very scary. There will be a lot of people, and some of them might say mean things. Kira thought about this. Will you be there with me? If they let me, yes. Will Grandma be there too? The Queen looked surprised to be included. If you want me there. I do, Kira said simply. Families should stick together. Commander Stone's radio crackled again. Sir, both fleets are powering up weapons. They're demanding immediate answers or they're going to start shooting. The Queen made her decision. We will go to my ship. The child will speak to both councils through video connection. This is the only way to prevent war. Jake felt scared, but he nodded. Okay, but I go with her. And Dr. Collins, too. Kira needs people she trusts. Agreed, the Queen said. She spoke to her scientists in Zephyrian. They looked shocked, but they nodded. As they prepared to leave the station, Amy pulled Jake aside. Are you sure about this? We're putting an 8-year-old in the middle of an interstellar crisis. Jake looked at Kira, who was bravely holding the Queen's hand. She's the only one who can fix this, Amy. She's the bridge between our worlds. She always has been. They walked through the station toward the docking bay where the Queen's ship waited. Kira looked small between Jake and the Queen, but she walked with her head up. Daddy, she said as they walked. What if they don't like me? Jake stopped and knelt down to her level. Then they're foolish, because you are the most amazing person I know. You're brave and kind and smart. You're everything good about both humans and Zephyrians. And even if some people don't understand you at first, the Queen added, surprising everyone, the right people will. The people who matter will see how special you are. Kira smiled at both of them. I love you, Daddy Jake. I love you too, Grandma. The Queen's breath caught. It was the first time anyone had called her Grandma with love instead of fear. I love you too, child, she whispered. As they boarded the Queen's ship, Jake prayed that love would be enough to stop a war. In a few minutes, the whole galaxy would see Kira. They would have to decide if she was a bridge between worlds or a threat to everything they believed. The future of two species rested in the hands of a brave little girl who just wanted to love both sides of her family. The Queen's ship was magnificent and terrifying. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and everything was much larger than human size. Kira held tightly to Jake's hand as they walked through the corridors. It's like a palace in space, she whispered. Queen Veltara led them to a large room with a massive screen that covered one entire wall. Already they could see the angry faces of Zephyrian Council members appearing on the screen. On the other half, human officials were connecting from their ships. Jake recognized Admiral Kate Wilson from Earth's fleet. She looked worried and angry. Captain Morrison, what is your status? Are you being held prisoner? Before Jake could answer, a Zephyrian Council member spoke. His voice was deep and cold. Your Majesty, you have been missing for too long. We demand you return immediately and explain your actions. Queen Veltara sat in a large chair at the front of the room. Jake and Amy stood beside her with Kira between them. Council members, the Queen said formally. Admiral Wilson, I called this meeting to prevent a war. What I have discovered here changes everything between our peoples. Admiral Wilson leaned forward on the screen. Your Majesty, with respect, we need Captain Morrison and his team returned safely before we discuss anything else. I am safe, Admiral, Jake said. But we have a situation that both sides need to understand. The Zephyrian Council member who had spoken before looked angry. Your Majesty, you have wasted enough time with these humans. We have reports that they are holding a Zephyrian child hostage. Not hostage, the Queen said carefully. But there is indeed a child. A very special child. She gestured for Kira to step forward. The little girl looked up at the giant screen showing dozens of angry alien and human faces. For a moment she seemed very small and scared. Jake knelt down beside her. Remember what we talked about, sweetheart? Just tell them the truth about who you are. Kira nodded and took a deep breath. She walked closer to the screen and looked up at all the faces looking down at her. Hello, she said in her clear, young voice. My name is Kira, I'm 8 years old. The room went completely silent. On the screen, both humans and Zephyrians stared at this child with pale skin and bright purple eyes. Admiral Wilson spoke first. Captain Morrison, who is this child? She's my daughter, Jake said simply. A Zephyrian Council member hissed in anger. Impossible. That child has Zephyrian eyes. How did humans steal one of our children? Kira stepped forward again. Nobody stole me. My daddy found me when my birth mommy couldn't take care of me anymore. Queen Veltara spoke, her voice carrying across both fleets. This child is my granddaughter. She is the daughter of my son Velthor and a human woman named Lisa Grant. Chaos erupted on the screen. Humans and Zephyrians began shouting over each other. Some called it impossible. Others called it an abomination. A few looked curious and amazed. Admiral Wilson raised her hand for quiet. Your Majesty, if this is true, why wasn't this reported through proper channels? Amy stepped forward. Admiral, the child was abandoned. Her mother couldn't handle the pressure of raising a half-alien child. Captain Morrison took her in when no one else would. A different Zephyrian Council member spoke. This one was older, with silver markings on his face. Your Majesty, if this child is truly royal blood, she belongs with us. She must be educated in proper Zephyrian ways. Kira looked up at him on the screen. What if I don't want to forget my human ways? The council member looked shocked that she had spoken directly to him. Child, you must learn your place in the proper order. I know my place, Kira said bravely. My place is with people who love me. That's Daddy Jake and Dr. Amy and Commander Stone and now Grandma too. Admiral Wilson was studying Kira carefully. Child, have you been treated well by the humans? Yes, ma'am. Daddy Jake reads me stories every night. He teaches me about stars and planets. He hugs me when I have bad dreams. Dr. Amy teaches me about different kinds of people, including Zephyrians. A human official on the screen spoke up. But surely you belong with your own kind. With other Zephyrians? Kira tilted her head thinking. I am with my own kind. Humans are my kind too. I'm half and half, so both are my people. Queen Veltara stood up. The child speaks wisdom that we adults have failed to see. She is not just Zephyrian or just human. She is both, and she is proof that our peoples can come together in peace. The silver-marked Zephyrian council member shook his head. Your Majesty, this is against all tradition. Royal children cannot be raised by other species. Then maybe our traditions need to change, the Queen said firmly. Jake was amazed. The Queen was defending their family. Admiral Wilson looked thoughtful. Captain Morrison, what exactly are you proposing? Jake looked down at Kira, then back at the screen. I'm proposing that we recognize that family can be bigger than we thought. Kira doesn't have to choose between being human or Zephyrian. She can be both. How would that work practically? Another human official asked. Dr. Amy spoke up. She could live primarily with Captain Morrison, who has been her father for 2 years. But she could also spend time with her Zephyrian family, learning about that culture too. She could be a bridge between our peoples. Kira nodded eagerly. I want to learn everything. I want to know about human cookies and Zephyrian songs. I want to learn both languages and visit both kinds of planets. The old Zephyrian council member looked troubled. This has never been done before. We have no laws for such arrangements. Then we make new laws, Queen Veltara said. My son chose to love a human. Their child deserves to love both sides of her heritage. Admiral Wilson was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Your Majesty, if we agree to this arrangement, what would it mean for our treaty negotiations? The Queen looked at Jake, then at Kira. It would mean that our treaty includes provisions for cross-species families. It would mean that we recognize love can cross the boundaries between stars. A younger Zephyrian on the screen spoke up. Your Majesty, many of our people would support this. There are others who have wondered about closer relationships with humans. A human diplomat nodded. Admiral, this could be the foundation for real peace. Not just political agreements, but real understanding between our peoples. Kira stepped closer to the screen again. Please don't fight about me. I don't want to cause wars. I just want to love my family. All of my family. Her simple words hung in the air. Here was a child asking for the most basic thing in the universe, the right to love and be loved. Admiral Wilson made her decision first. The human fleet supports this arrangement. Captain Morrison has proven himself an excellent father. The child should stay with him, with regular visits to learn about her Zephyrian heritage. The Queen looked at her council members. Those who support this new path, speak now. One by one, more Zephyrians spoke up in support. Not all of them, but enough. The old council member who had objected finally sighed. Your Majesty, if this is your will, we will follow. But we request that the child spend significant time learning our ways. Of course, Jake said. We want her to know everything about both sides of her family. Queen Veltara stood and made a formal announcement. Let it be recorded that Princess Kira is recognized as both human and Zephyrian. She will be raised by Captain Jake Morrison with full support from the royal family. She will learn both human and Zephyrian customs, and she will be a symbol of friendship between our peoples. Kira clapped her hands and ran to hug Jake. Daddy, I get to keep everyone. Jake picked her up and spun her around. Yes, sweetheart. You get to keep everyone. Queen Veltara approached them. If I may, I would like to visit often. I have much to learn about being a grandmother. Kira reached out and hugged the Queen too. I'll teach you about hugs and cookies, Grandma. And you can teach me about being a princess. Admiral Wilson smiled on the screen. I think this treaty is going to be very different from what we originally planned. Different. But better, the Queen agreed. 3 months later, the peace treaty was signed with new clauses about cross-species families and cultural exchange. Kira split her time between the space station with Jake and royal visits with Queen Veltara. She learned to speak Zephyrian and to perform the traditional dances of her grandmother's people. She also taught the Queen how to make chocolate chip cookies and play human children's games. Most importantly, she grew up knowing that she was loved completely by both sides of her family. She became the bridge between two worlds, proving that love really could cross the vast distances between stars. And Captain Jake Morrison, who had once lost everything, found that sometimes the family you choose can be even stronger than the family you're born with. Together, they all learned that the universe was big enough for every kind of love.